Namaste students, I am Shobha, Science faculty from Mangala Vidya Mandira. Today, let us move to the second part in the chapter Microorganisms as Friends and Foe. Before going to the next topic, let us have a small recall on the previous topics. In the last video, we have studied about microorganisms, their habitat, and how microorganisms are useful to us, that is friendly microorganisms, like some examples of how they help in making curd and bread, the commercial use of microbes, that is vaccine production, medicinal use of microbes, that is about antibiotics, and how microbes helps to increase soil fertility and cleaning up the environment. So these are all the topics which we have covered in the last video. Today let us move to the next topic, that is harmful microorganisms. So microorganisms are harmful to us in many ways by causing diseases. Some microorganisms cause diseases in human beings and some in plants and animals. Such disease causing microorganisms are called as pathogens. Some microorganisms spoil food and some spoil the cloths and even leathers. So, let us study some of the harmful activities done by these microorganisms, firstly in human beings. Pathogens enter our body through air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. They can also get transmitted by the direct contact with the infected person, or they may be carried by any other means of animals. These microbial diseases that can spread from an infected person to an healthy person through air, water, food, or physical contact will be called as communicable diseases. Some of the examples are like cholera, tuberculosis, common cold, chicken pox, etc. So let us move to how this common cold has been caused. So that is directly related to our present scenario of corona also. The same way it will be spreading here also. So when a person suffering from the common cold sneezes, fine droplets of the moisture carrying thousands of microbes are spread in air. This virus may enter the body of the healthy person while breathing and cause infections. So this is how this virus or any pathogens are being transmitted through air. It's a very dangerous thing. So we should avoid being next to this infected person. That is the main way of prevention. Other than this air, water and food, there are some other things which can carry these diseases. So they will be called as carriers. The housefly and mosquitoes, these are the two main carriers other than the air, water and food. Housefly is one such carrier. The housefly sits on the garbage and animal excreta. The pathogens will stick to their bodies. So the same housefly, when it sits on the uncovered food, they may transfer the pathogens on the food. So person who eats that contaminated food is likely to get sick. So it is always advisable to keep the food covered. Avoid consuming the uncovered food items of the roadsides or the street foods. Another one example of carrier is mosquitoes. There are different types of mosquitoes which are carrying the pathogens. One of the example is female Anopheles mosquito, which carries the parasite causing malaria. Another example is female Aedes mosquito, which carries the virus which causes the dengue disease. So there are different pathogens which are being carried by these mosquitoes. So it has been how the mosquitoes are carrying these pathogens are. So just they will try to insert the pathogens which you can see in the green color. So that pathogens will be inserted into our body through the mosquito or housefly. So the red biconcave cells are nothing but RBC, that is our blood. So they just get multiplied within the blood cells, and this is how the infection starts spreading. So it is always said this mosquitoes breed in water, means they start growing in water. Hence one should not let the water to collect anywhere in and around our house, especially in coolers, tires and flower pot. So keeping our environment clean and dry will prevent the growth of this mosquitoes. Now, let us have a look of a table where this is a list of some diseases which is caused by most of the microorganisms in human beings, like tuberculosis, measles, chickenpox, polio, cholera, typhoid, hepatitis B, malaria. These are all the diseases caused in human beings by different microorganism. The list is also there, so whether it is a bacteria or virus or a protozoan which is causing, and how it is transmitted, whether it is by air, water, food or mosquitoes, that is also given, followed by how to prevent it. So by keeping a distance from the infected person, keeping our in and around surroundings clean, by drinking boiled and clean water, and also by spraying mosquito repellents or using mosquito nets. So there are different ways how to prevent it. So please go through this chart. Now let us move to disease causing microorganism in animals. Microorganisms not even leave the animals, they also cause diseases in animals. um, Several microorganisms cause these diseases in animals also, but it is little bit less compared to the human beings. The diseases caused in cattle or animals is little bit less compared to the diseases caused in human beings. For example, it is anthrax. The most deadliest diseases caused in animals is anthrax. It is caused by an bacteria called as Bacillus anthracis, and this discovery of anthrax in animals was done by a scientist called Robert Koch in the year 1876. So other than this disease, there is another most common disease in animals. It is foot and mouth disease, which is caused by a virus. As you can see in the picture, the cattle will have blisters on the tongue or the mouth region or in the foot region. So this is another deadly diseases which is caused in animals. Now let us move to the next part, that is diseases causing microorganism in plants. So in plants also microorganisms cause several diseases in plants like wheat, rice, potato, apple, sugar cane. Many other plant varieties get infected by many of the viruses and bacteria. So let us have a small look on a few examples like citrus canker. So it is the name of the disease which is caused in citrus varieties like lemon, orange, sweet lime, like that, and it is caused by an bacteria, and where it has been transmitted through the hair. You can see some blisters, brown spots on the lemon or orange. That means it has got infected by bacteria. Rust of wheat, it is a disease which is caused by a fungus, and you can see the yellow spots which is appearing on the leaf of that wheat plant. The third one is yellow vein mosaic of bendi, that is okra. So this is also a viral disease which is caused by the insects on the leaves of that bendi plant. You can see that yellow spots, especially in that midribs or the veins. You can see that yellow organisms. So all this can be controlled using some insecticides or pesticides, so which can kill all the microbes. So chemicals spraying is the best method of preventing the diseases in plants. So now we will move to another most important topic, that is food poisoning. So what is food poisoning? How can we prevent it? That is what we are going to study now. Food poisoning would be due to the consumption of the food spoiled by some microorganisms. Either it may be bacteria, fungi, parasites, or pathogens. So when a person eat this contaminated food, then it will cause food poisoning. Microorganisms that grow on our food sometimes causes this toxic substances, means poisonous substances. This makes the food poisonous, causing several illness and even may lead to death. So it is very important to preserve the food to prevent it from being spoiled. So hope you have understood what is food poisoning. Now let us move to the methods of preserving food. So there are different methods of preservation of food, students, at which we are not even before knowing the actual science, what our ancestors were doing from a very old age. So under that, we will first move to the chemical methods. So chemical methods, as the name itself suggests, by adding some chemical in the form of preservatives. So the chemicals which is added in order to prevent the food spoilage will be called as preservatives. Some of the chemicals name is like sodium benzoate, sodium metabisulfate. You can just go through any of the food packed food items. So in that you could have seen some mentioning like sodium benzoate, sodium metabisulfate, all these are the preservatives. So other than this chemical preservatives, usually the food can be preserved by using salt. Common salt has been used to preserve meat and fish for ages. Meat and fish are covered with dry salt to check the growth of bacteria. So salting is an important way of preserving food items. Not even this meat or fish, but also amla, the gooseberry, the raw mangoes, tamarind, etc. can be preserved with the help of this salt. Secondly, another one chemical method is by adding sugar. For example, jams, jellies, squashes which are preserved by sugar. Sugar will reduce the moisture content. So when the moisture content is reduced, it will not allow the growth of any bacteria. So the food will not be spoiled. So another way is by adding oil and vinegar. This is also one age old traditional way. So using of oil and vinegar prevents the spoilage of pickle because bacteria cannot live in that acidic environment. So vegetables, fruits, fish and meat are also preserved by this method. Next we will move to the physical methods. So under physical methods we are having two topics: heat and cold treatment and storage and packing. So under heat and cold treatment, where we can heat the foodstuffs and we can preserve it, or we can refrigerate it and we can preserve it. For example, as soon as we buy the milk, for packed milk or cow milk, we will just allow it to boil slowly, and that prevents the or preserves the milk at least for a day or two. Similarly, some of the canned fruits, as soon as we bring, in the instructions only they would have been given it should be frozen, it should be refrigerated. So that also can prevent the food spoilage. Another one main term is called as pasteurization. This is mainly done for milk, in order to preserve the milk. Pasteurized milk can be consumed without boiling as it is free from the harmful microbes. So what will be done in this process of pasteurization means the milk will be heated about 70 degrees centigrade for a 15 to 30 seconds and then suddenly cooled, and suddenly they will be chilled and it will be stored. By doing so, it prevents the growth of microbes which can live in the extreme hot temperature or extreme cold temperature. All this bacteria will be killed, and this process was being discovered by a scientist, Louis Pasteur, and this hence the name it is called as pasteurization. Another way of preserving the food is packing and storage. So these days many of the dry fruits or even vegetables are sold in the sealed airtight packets to prevent the attack of microbes. So before they are packing, they also dry that packed packing layers. Later it will be stored in that the food items will be stored in that. So these are the two main methods of preserving the or without spoiling, how we can preserve the food. That is, one is chemical method, another one is physical method. So under chemical methods we have studied 3 types, and in the physical method we have studied 2 types. So now let us move to the last topic of this chapter, nitrogen fixation. So this nitrogen is a very important component, students, because this nitrogen is a main part of amino acids. This amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. As you all know, all living organisms requires proteins. Like human beings require, plants require proteins, and animals even require proteins. So if we want proteins, indirectly we are in the need of nitrogen. But human beings and animals cannot directly use the nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere. It is the only the plants which can do this work of absorption of this nitrogen. So indirectly, when a person eats the plant, we are going to get the nitrogen. So when animals consume the plants, animals are going to get the nitrogen. So now we have to study how this nitrogen present in the atmosphere will be absorbed by the plants. So that process is called as nitrogen fixation. So remember, nitrogen is a main component of proteins. That nitrogen cannot be absorbed by either human beings or animals directly. Only it can be done by plants. So that process of fixing the nitrogen from the atmosphere by the plants is called as nitrogen fixation. So let us see this video and understand what is nitrogen fixation.
Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is an essential constituent of all major organic compounds present in living organisms. That is, amino acids, proteins, enzymes, nucleotides, and nucleic acids. Different processes that occur during nitrogen cycle are nitrogen fixation, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification, nitrification, and denitrification. Nitrogen is picked up as inorganic compound from the atmosphere and is changed into organic form by plants and some prokaryotes. The atmosphere contains 78% of nitrogen in gaseous state, yet animals cannot use it directly. They can use nitrogen either in inorganic forms as ammonia, nitrites, and nitrates, or in organic form as urea, proteins, and nucleic acids. Nitrogen fixation is the conversion of nitrogen into a compound of nitrogen. Thunderstorm, lightning, and rain helps in transfer of large quantity of nitrogen into soil. Biological nitrogen fixation is carried out by symbiotic bacteria. Rhizobium present in the root nodules of leguminous plant like pea. Cyanobacteria like nostoc and Anabaena present also fix nitrogen. Some free-living bacteria like Clostridium also fix nitrogen in soil. Nitrogen assimilation. Plants take up nitrogen and synthesize compounds from it. Other organisms feed on plants to get nitrogen. Ammonification. It involves the decomposition of proteins of dead plants and animals and nitrogenous wastes like urea, uric acid, etc. of animals to ammonia in the presence of ammonifying bacteria. Nitrification. It involves oxidation of ammonia to nitrates through nitrites in the presence of nitrifying bacteria, that is, Nitrococcus, Nitrosomonas, etc. Denitrification. Conversion of nitrate to nitrous oxide and then to molecular nitrogen is carried by denitrifying bacteria, Theobacillus. Thus, there is continuous cycling of nitrogen between the atmosphere and living as well as non-living systems.
So as you can see this picture, students, this is actually the cycle of atmospheric nitrogen cycle. So where it undergoes different process, starting from N2, that is nitrogen, back we are going to get N2. This is a cycle. So first N2 will be converted into NO2 or NO3. So that is done by the plants. Once this NO2 or NO3 is being eaten up by the animals, they will enter the plants or animal body, and after the death of the animals, once again it will be entering into the soil. So this is a cycle. So this cycle continues, and hence it is called as nitrogen cycle. Hope you have understood this, students. Next we are going to the next chapter. Hope you have understood all the topics covered in this video, students. Thank you.